Hello everyone, welcome to the session. So in this lecture we are going to discuss about the topic the growth of nationalism. So here we are only going to discuss about the growth of nationalism in the European countries. This is not in the context of India but in the European countries, because till now we have discussed many things about the European countries, also the medieval period in the European countries. Then we have discussed about the industrial revolution that specifically took place in the England. So this chapter is also dedicated, or this topic is also dedicated towards the growth of nationalism in the European countries. What were the different revolutions that took place in order to get independent in the European countries? We are going to discuss about it. So the topics that we are going to cover in this particular lecture is the meaning of nationalism, what were the factors that led to nationalism in Europe. Then we will discuss about the French Revolution in complete detail. What were the various causes that led towards the French Revolution? What was the timeline? That is, what were the various events that took place in the or during the French Revolution? Then what was the impact of French Revolution on the whole country? Then we will talk about the hero of French Revolution, or who is considered as a hero in this whole revolution, that is Napoleon Bonaparte. Rise of Napoleon Bonaparte during the French Revolution, and there was a Napoleonic code that was made by Napoleon Bonaparte. We will discuss about that code also. So these are all the topics that we are going to study now. So let's begin it. Now, what do you mean by nationalism? So it is a feeling of belongingness to one nation. Okay, people are living in a country, in a nation. There is a specific boundary that is made for a particular nation, and our love and respect towards that particular nation is called as the nationalism. It is a feeling of belongingness to that particular country. It is a feeling of oneness or togetherness. Whoever the people who are living in that particular decided boundary of any country, we are all together. We show mutual respect for each other, and we behave or we feel like that we are all together because we are living in a one nation, and that feeling of togetherness, oneness, belongingness is called as the nationalism. It is a result of shared common culture, land or history. Now, how nationalism is made? When any country is sharing, or the people living in that country, mainly the people who are living are making that country or nation. So people having the similar kind of history, living on a same kind of land, sharing the same kind of culture, belong to a nation, and this feeling of nationalism is developed because of these common features, that is the culture, land or history of that nation. Now, nationalism was an ideology used to drive and unite the population, form a unified state where members of a country shared the same culture and linguistic background. So a term nationalism is used when it was found that people are sharing a similar kind of ideology. Basically, nationalism is a kind of ideology, and this ideology is developed or was developed to unite the members, or members means the people who are living in that country, in that specific boundary, or population that is united in a one single nation in a form of a unified state. This state here means the country, where members of a country share similar culture and linguistic background, means they are having a similar kind of culture. This culture could be of many reasons, depend upon the religion of a person, depend upon the race of a person, or that could be of several reasons. And the linguistic background means they are sharing a similar kind of language also. So when these things are shared among the members of a unified state, that ideology, a kind of ideology is developed within the minds of people, and that ideology is called as the nationalism. Different countries adopted this ideology in Europe to fight for their independence also. Now, as I have told you in the beginning of this lecture, that we are concerning on the European countries, upon the nationalism of the European countries. So when we talk about the history of Europe, we see that most of the nations were under the control of England or under the Great Britain, the crown. So different countries were there in European continent, and they have adopted this ideology of nationalism to fight for the independence of their particular state or for their particular nation from the imperialism of the German and the Russian Empire. So in European countries there were various German influence over them, a Russian influence was over them. So they fought for their independence from these imperialistic German and Russian Empire. Several factors that led to nationalism in Europe include the rise of the middle class. Okay, so there were various reasons or causes or factors that led towards the nationalism in the Europe. That is, the minds of people changed and they started following the ideology of nationalism. What were these factors? Mainly the rise of the middle class. Okay, there were middle class in the European nations. They got a kind of enlightenment, that is also called as the age of enlightenment, that we will discuss in our lecture. But till now you need to understand that there was a rise in the middle class, the industrial revolution took place, that we have already discussed in our previous chapter, and the spread of the ideas of enlightenment. There was a whole age of enlightenment when the people thought, the middle class people or the common man you can say, have got this enlightenment. They started using their minds that they need independence. They got that feeling that they do not need a crown over them or any person over them who will decide what they have to do. Generally what people used to consider, that according to the divine origin theory, what is divine origin theory? That the king is the son of a god. God has sent the king, it is the hand of God, and he is there to protect us, to take care of us. People used to consider king as the hand of God or the son of God. Thus directly they compare king with the god only, and the whole royal family is considered as the god in the previous times, in the earlier times. But then afterwards a age of enlightenment came, people got enough enlightened and they started treating king as a simple person, and they say that now we want independence from the clutches of such king or queen. So this was the period which came to be known as the age of enlightenment. So these are the various factors that led towards the nationalism in Europe. Now let's discuss about these factors that led to nationalism in Europe in a little detail also. So the feudal system was a significant impediment to nationalism. So there was feudal system, that is, the people have to follow the rules and regulations that were made by the king. They have to work for the king. This whole system was known as the feudal system. Okay, they have to give taxes to these kings. So a change in this feudal system was seen that led towards the nationalism. The church was influential throughout the Middle Ages, wielding immense control over the globe. So church was having a great control during the medieval time, during the Middle Ages. It has a lot of influence upon the politics of any nation, upon the controlling of any nation. So there was three kinds of divisions. Suppose there is a country and there were three kinds of division. First one were the clergy. These clergy and nobility, and then come the common people. Okay, so these two were basically ruling over the whole population, upon the whole common people. These were 80% in any nation, and these two together made 20% only. And these were the kings or queens, the kings or the queens, basically the crown, and the popes. Popes means belonging to the church. So the church and the king and the queen were basically ruling over the common people, though they were having a very less in numbers. Okay, so church was very influential. They used to also gain religious taxes from the people, that if you are following a particular religion, you have to give that religious tax to the church also. The church was taking these taxes, and the king and queen were taking different kinds of taxes that we will discuss here in this lecture. And these common people were giving these taxes. They were not happy with such kinds of thing. So here we are seeing that church was also having a great control over the whole globe. Many conflicts have also elicited patriotic sentiments from the general populace. Now because these two were enjoying a lot of freedom from taxes, these two sectors were not at all giving any kind of taxes, okay, but only the common people were giving. This common people include all the other classes of the society, the peasants, the farmers or peasants. Why peasants? They are called much more because during that time agriculture was the main occupation, so mostly people were farmers in that time, they were peasants. So that is why this particular class is known as the peasants. They were suffering a lot. They have to give different kinds of taxes to these two classes, but these two classes were enjoying a proper royal treatment and they were free from all the kinds of taxes that was not liked by the people of Europe, and they have gained a kind of patriotic sentiments in themselves that they want independence from these people. Foreign rulers often decided to oppress their subjects, contributing to the rise of nationalism also. So when the foreigners invaded, that also made a kind of thinking in the minds of people that they want free from these foreign invaders, from foreign rulers, and they want nationalism. As we can see in India, when the Indian people got this feeling of nationalism, when the Britishers came in India, we wanted freedom from these Britishers. We wanted an independent nation. So that made a feeling of nationalism. That whole process or phenomena of the Britishers in the country made a feeling of nationalism in the minds and the hearts of each and every Indian. So this is a kind of rise of nationalism that was seen in the European countries as well. Then reactions drove the nationalist feeling about injustice and arbitrary reign of the unjust king. So there were various kings who were not much justiciable. They were so unfair that people were not happy with them. They started thinking that such person who is ruling over us could not be the son of a god. We cannot compare such person as to the God, because God will never do unjust to their children. So this was a feeling. This is called as the age of enlightenment, when people got to understood that such things could also happen. Then famous poets, politicians and philosophers like Machiavelli, Mill, Mazzini and Garibaldi contributed significantly to the public's political awareness and national pride. So many philosophers came, poets came. In every country there are various philosophers and poets or various writers or politicians who contributed in changing the opinion of the people. What these poets and writers and philosophers do? They come on a public platform and try to change or try to impose their opinion on the people. People understood them, people try to take their opinion and think about it. So all these things also contributed to the rise of nationalism in Europe. So now that was all about the introductory part, how nationalism started in Europe and what were the different factors that led towards the nationalism in Europe. Now let's start about the French Revolution, which is considered to be a very great revolution when we talk about the world history. So if you are asked to describe the French Revolution in just 2 lines, it may be like there was a king, there was a queen, they both died, end of the story. But it contains a lot of twists and turns in it. Various things happen, a whole timeline is there, lot of events happen, lot of bloodshed took place, lot of wars took place, and then it makes a whole French Revolution and how France got independence. So we are going to discuss about the French Revolution in this lecture now. The French Revolution in 1789 was an influential event that marked the age of revolutions in Europe. Now one thing you need to know, that before French Revolution, American Revolution already took place in the European country. America got independent from the Britishers and a whole United States of America was made. So French Revolution is the event that happened after the American Revolution, but before going through the American Revolution, we will discuss about the French Revolution. So it was an influential event of 1789 that marked a great significance on the history of Europe, of the history of revolutions in Europe. So the major outcome of the revolution was the formation of a constitutional monarchy and a sizable reduction in the royal and the feudal privileges. So this is the basic outline of the French Revolution, that a revolution took place, and what resulted after the revolution, that a constitutional monarchy took birth. Okay, before that there was only a monarchy, there was no any kind of constitution. The king and queens were ruling over the people and they were kind of unjust and unfair. But after this revolution, a constitutional monarchy was formed and there was a reduction in the royal and the feudal privileges that the clergy and the nobility were enjoying in the region. It paved the way for the achievement of bigger goals of national identity and national pride, which can be aptly called as the nationalism. So not only they got the constitutional monarchy, it had also made bigger achievement. The revolution also made bigger achievements and there were bigger goals of people that created a national identity. A feeling of nationalism arose in the minds and hearts of the people of that particular region where the French Revolution took place and a country, France, was made. Now there were various causes of this French Revolution. So the French Revolution was caused due to many factors, and the main reasons was the inequality between the rich and the poor. So as we have already discussed that there were three classes: the clergy, nobility, and the peasants. The peasants were the common people, or the, you can say, or forming the main population of any country. As you can see in this picture also, there is a person, this is represented as a peasant. These two are the clergy and the nobility. These two are the crown, the king, queen, and the religious priests, the popes, the people who are having the authority of the whole church. So here we can see that how they are riding on the back of the common person, on the back of the peasants. So this was a kind of exploitation that a peasant or a common people were facing from the rich ones in the society. So there was a complete inequality between these rich and the poor. The French people were tired of being taxed heavily while the rich were not. So the nobility and the clergy were not have to pay any kind of taxes, whereas the peasant class have to pay a lot of taxes. As I have already told you, there are various kinds of land tax upon the people. Whatever they are producing, they have to give it to the king or queen, some percent of it. And the religious taxes were also imposed by the church on the people, that they have to give the 10% of their production to the church also. So these kinds of things, these kinds of taxes were heavily imposed on the people. So this was one of the reasons that led towards the, or one of the causes that led towards the revolution. They also wanted to be able to elect their officials and have a say in how their government was run. So basically they wanted the representation. Representation in the politics. Because if they having the representation in the politics, they would be able to raise their opinions, to raise their questions in the parliament of that time. So they wanted to be elected their officials, and they wanted their opinion to be raised whenever any government is in running. Additionally, the ideas of enlightenment were spreading throughout the France, that is the age of enlightenment. These included equality, liberty, and democracy. So this age of enlightenment came in France. Okay, so the age of enlightenment came in the all European countries, where the ideas like equality, liberty, democracy were the things that people wanted. They wanted equal treatment, they wanted equality in all the sectors of the society. They want liberty, they want freedom. Liberty means freedom to live with all the happiness in the society. And democracy, they want a proper democracy, means representation of the people in the government. They want their candidate must be present in the government, whoever is running this government. So these were the ideas that started thought of enlightenment. They started the thought of nationalism, independence in the France. The people of France were ready for change also, because they were facing a lot of things of king and queens in France. They have already seen American Revolution, and they were already inspired from that revolution, that how the country got independent and made its own whole federation of state, that is the United States of America. So they also wanted the change for their government. They have seen that democracy is working there. They have seen that people are enjoying the rights like equality and liberty. So they also wanted similar kinds of rights for them. The French Revolution was a time of great change for France. It led to the end of monarchy and establishment of democracy. So because of this age of enlightenment, it is the end point when this revolution all ended. Because of this enlightenment that people wanted the change in their society, in their government, this led towards the establishment of democracy in the country and end of the monarchy, that is end of the king or queenship in the country. Now various scholars came, various philosophers came like these, like Rousseau, John Locke or Voltaire. These were various kinds of philosophers that came during the French Revolution, where Rousseau said man is free but everywhere in chain. So this was a very So this was a great line said by Rousseau, who was a philosopher at that time, that man is free but everywhere in chains. That though man is free, they are enjoying all the kinds of freedom, but still they are in the chains, because these chains were represented in the form of the taxes that people used to pay at that time, the heavy taxes that were imposed on the people. If the person have to pay these taxes, and a person who was not paying the taxes were have to face the punishments. So anyways, they were in a kind of chains. They have to pay the taxes to the nobility and to the clergy class of the society. So these were the things that people understood. This came to be known as the whole age of enlightenment, when people got this feeling within themselves that now they want a change. Now they wanted themselves to be free from any kind of monarchy. They want a democracy for their country. They want a proper constitution for their country. They were aware of their rights now. They wanted equality, liberty and democracy for their nation. So this led towards the French Revolution. This was the another cause of French Revolution. Additionally, it caused many other countries to declare war on France also. So the French Revolution was a time of great change for France. It led to the end of monarchy and establishment of democracy. Now many other countries also wanted to establish their power on the France. The Britishers want their power on France, and the Russian and the German empires were also trying to establish their power on the France, and lot of wars declared by many other empires upon the France, because they want to gain control over there. They were finding that people are revolting there, and by doing that they were trying to impose their power upon the France. So France has also seen various kinds of invasions, various kinds of wars in their nation, and they wanted to get free from all these kinds of things. They wanted a complete feeling of independence, and this was the another cause that led towards the French Revolution. Now let's discuss about the whole timeline, that what were the events, how this French Revolution started. Okay, so in 1789 the States General convened for the first time in 175 years, where the third state, which represented the common people of France, demanded more representation. So as I have told you, there were three classes in the society. So these were the three classes, and they were generally called as the three states. Three states of the society. Okay, so this was the third state that were having the common people in them, and these states wanted representation in the government. They for the first time in the 175 years demanded for the representation in the government. Okay, and representation in the government means they wanted their representative to be enter in these two states, that is the clergy and the nobility, who were basically ruling the whole government of the nation. So they wanted their representation in that. Why they wanted their representation? Because by doing this they would be able to raise their voice in the government, in the matters or whatever the policies of that time that the king used to make or the queen used to make. They wanted themselves to be entered in those kinds of politics, in those kinds of governmental works. Then an event took place in France. So on 14 July 1789, a state prison on the east side of Paris known as Bastille. So it is a, you can say, a monument built by or a palace built by the king known as Bastille, and it was basically the prison, was attacked by an angry aggressive mob. Now why this attack was done by the mob, by the common people, by this class of peasants? A rumor spread in the whole area, in the whole city of Paris, that a king is going to shoot or is going to make an announcement of killing various kinds of people, killing the people, the common people who are not ready to follow the rules and regulations made by the king, who are not going to accept the policies of the king. The king is going to kill all those people, going to shoot all those people who are not following the king. So when this rumor spread in the whole city of Paris, the mob means the group of the people got very much aggressive and they attacked on this prison of Bastille. As you can see, this is a picture that is generally denoted or used to show the attack on the prison of Bastille. So the prison had become a symbol of the monarchy's dictatorial rule. Why this particular prison of Bastille was used for the attack by the mob? Because it shows a kind of symbol for the monarchy's dictatorial rule. At that time, Louis XVI was ruling over the whole kingdom of France, and he was a kind of dictator. He was doing such practices. French have already faced a lot of loss, okay, because they have contributed in the American Revolution. They have supported the Americans to get free from the Britishers. Because of that, because Louis XVI already supported the American Revolution, that had created a lot of loss in the treasury, lot of army loss also in the French Empire. But afterwards, what happened? Louis XVI, King Louis XVI, who was ruling in the French kingdom, what he had done? He had made different kinds of buildings. He started making his monuments, statues, and started spending money on these kinds of infrastructure instead of spending for the people who were facing a lot of poverty and economic crisis in his reign. People were already very much in aggression on him and they wanted a kind of change from Louis XVI. So, and then that rumor spread that he is going to kill whoever is trying to speak against him. The mob got very much angry and attacked on this prison, and the event became one of the defining moments in the revolution that follows. So now from here the revolution again started, okay. Before it, people were just facing issues, different kinds of issues, but when after this mob attacked on this particular prison of Bastille, a revolution, a kind of revolt started in the France. Then in 1790, the National Assembly was created as a result of the Tennis Court Oath. Now, what was this Tennis Court Oath? Because the peasant class, okay, the common people were not allowed to be the part. They were not the representation in the government. They were not allowed to enter there. So, they gathered in a tennis court on their own. All the peasants class gathered in the tennis court. There were different kinds of philosophers like Rousseau or Voltaire, they were there. And a oath was taken by the people, by the common people, where delegates from the third estate pledged to remain until they had reformed the France government. They had pledged there. This is called as the tennis court oath because they were gathered in the tennis court, because they were not having a kind of place where they can gather and discuss upon such things. So a National Assembly was created by this third estate because they were larger in population, they were larger in number, and their delegates have started, or they have said that they will reform this whole system of France's government, and a pledge, a oath was taken there for such kind of change that they were going to do, or a revolt or a reformation that they are going to start in France. So a National Assembly was created in 1790, that is came to be known as the Tennis Court Oath. Then in 1791, the National Assembly drafted the Constitution of 1791, which created a limited monarchy. So they have also created this third estate, this class of peasants also created a constitution. Their National Assembly created a constitution where they have given a very limited power to the king and queen. Then in 1792, France declared war on Austria, which began the war of the First Coalition. So there were different coalitions made with different countries. They have declared a war on Austria. Then in 1793, the reign of terror began in response to internal and external threats to the revolution. Thousands were executed, including the King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette. So here in the picture, as you can see, this is King Louis XVI and her wife Marie Antoinette. So it is also said in the history of the whole world. If a person who can be called to spend a lot of money on their own personal things, these two comes on the top. King Louis was building a lot of infrastructure knowingly that the treasury was already emptied. He has suffered a lot of loss in the American Revolution. And her wife Marie Antoinette was also a similar kind of nature. She used to spend a lot upon her clothes, upon her jewelry and all these things, knowingly that her people are suffering a kind of economic crisis in the France. Still, they were doing such kinds of practices that created a lot of aggression in the mind of the people of France. Reign of Terror began. Now, this event is called as the Reign of Terror that started in 1793. What happened? A lot of internal and external threats came in the revolution. Many people were killed during that time. A group was made. Okay, their group was made between the third state only. There were people who wanted monarchy and there were people who wanted complete democracy and no monarchy at all. So among the third state, two classes were formed, two groups were formed. Okay, that created a lot of bloodshed also. Both the groups and the leaders of both the groups started thinking on themselves that there are chances that the another group will come and kill them, and killing was a very normal practice of that time, and that is why it called as the Reign of Terror. A lot of terror was present during the 1793 in France. Also, they have captured the third state. The peasant class has captured the king and the queen and they have executed them in the middle of the market. A kind of execution was done, a punishment was in a way where the heads of the people were dislocated from their body. So King Louis and Queen Marie Antoinette were executed in the middle of the market by this third state of peasants. Then in 1794, the Reign of Terror ended with the fall of Robespierre. So Robespierre was one of the leader of one of the groups of those peasants. As I have told you that two groups were formed, who wanted monarchy and who don't wanted monarchy. So Robespierre was one of the leader of those two groups. This is Robespierre, and he started facing different kinds of threats from the other group, and people were actually killing, and that is why it is called as the Reign of Terror. And someone actually had killed Robespierre, and this has ended the Reign of Terror with the fall of their leader. Then 1795 was the Directory was established as a result of the Thermidorian reaction. It was a 5-member executive body that ruled France until 1799. So now the monarchy was killed, the king and queen was killed, the leaders who were spreading threat, who were creating this reign of terror in the whole France, those were also killed. Only the third state was remaining and the church was remaining. Church, the powers of the church were taken by the third state because they were larger in number. A national assembly was formed, and then a 5-member executive body also formed from that national assembly in the France in 1795, and that executive body of 5 members, where the representatives were from all the classes of the society, they ruled until 1799. So these are the main events that took place in the whole French Revolution. But the story is not ended here. There were more things that are to be joined, that needed to become in the French Revolution. Now, how it impacted, how it impacted the whole country, the people who were living. So a body of active citizens elected the States General and renamed it the National Assembly. Active citizens means the people, the representation from the third state came and they formed the National Assembly. A centralized administrative system was created, formulating uniform laws for all the French citizens. Now uniform laws were made, and the 3 main terms that were coined during the French Revolution, the equality, liberty and fraternity. Equality means everyone is equal in the eyes of law. Laws are uniform for each and every person. Liberty means everyone has the freedom to enjoy all the kinds of rights that they are provided to them. And fraternity means the brotherhood. All the people who are living in a same nation, same country, are all the brothers to each other. So the whole law was made on the principle of these 3 terms, the equality, liberty and fraternity. All internal custom duties and dues were abolished. Okay, like all the taxes, all the custom duties were completely eliminated. A uniform system of weights and measures was also adopted. Now, why the uniform system of weights and measures were adopted? Because before it, people have made their own units, and this created a lot of exploitation of the poor ones. Like, one has taken 2 blocks and considering it as the 1 kg, another one is taking only 1 block and considering it as 1 kg. But afterwards, what had happened after the French Revolution, a uniform system of weights and measures also started. The metric system was founded by France in 1791. The French revolutionaries also took it upon themselves to help other European countries to overcome autocracy and form nations. So the French revolutionaries also helped the other countries who wanted freedom, who wanted independence. The French armies were welcomed by European countries. Now these French armies were also welcomed by different European countries who want their independence, that is like Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and Italy in the 1790s. So these countries also got independent with the help of the French armies. Now, one thing that is left while talking about the French Revolution is the Napoleon Bonaparte. Who was Napoleon Bonaparte? He is considered to be the biggest hero of the whole French Revolution. So he is known for his highly ambitious military and political leadership in France. He was one of the greatest leader of the France government. He gained his popularity during the French Revolution as he gave rise to several successful campaigns during the Revolutionary War. He has contributed in various kinds of campaigns. He suddenly emerged as the leader of the French people of the whole French Revolution, and he became successful in organizing various kinds of campaigns in the Revolutionary Wars. He was the Emperor of French from 1804 until 1814 and again in 1815. So he also became the Emperor of the French people. So we have seen that Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette were killed or executed in the middle of the market. But after some years in 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte again became the emperor. Means again the monarchy started in the French. So this is a kind of irony. The whole French Revolution here comes to be proved as a great failure, because what people actually wanted, they wanted independence from this monarchy. Then Napoleon Bonaparte came. He declared firstly himself as the leader of the French Revolution and then he declared himself as the emperor. So again he started a rule of monarchy in the country. So this shows a kind of failure. What the French Revolution was done, this was just the opposite. So this is a kind of irony situation for the French Revolution. Napoleon strived to manage European and other international affairs for a period of 10 years. While leading France against a series of conspiracies in the Napoleonic Wars, he remains one of the most eminent and debatable politicians in the human history. Now, why he is called as a debatable politician? Because as I have told you, French Revolution happened because the people wanted freedom from the monarchy, but then he himself established monarchy. He himself became the emperor of the France again, and this has completely destroyed the basic purpose of the French Revolution. Though he tried to manage the European and other international affairs for the period of 10 years also, he gave a direction to the French Revolution. Now, what had become the reason of the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte during the French Revolution? So when Napoleon was just 30 years old, he became the eminent political leader of France in November 1799, when the code was made, that is when the directory was made and a 5-member bench was made, executive body was made in France in order to run the government. Then Napoleon became the eminent political leader at that time. Napoleon Bonaparte was an indirect outcome of the French Revolution. As usual, there was a political and economic stability in France during the revolution, and there was a struggle for power. So people were now confused because the king was killed, the king was executed, there was no particular person to whom the power is to be given, so they were struggling for power, and they were already facing the economic crisis and the political instability in the country. So Napoleon took advantage of the situation and became the commander with the help of the army. So here what Napoleon has done, he took advantage of this political and economic instability in France and he became the commander for the army in France. He said that I will become the commander, I will lead this army of France, and from here he had become a great leader in the French Revolution. Napoleon declared himself the king of France then in 1804. So after becoming the commander-in-chief of the army of the French, in 1804, after some years, he had declared himself as the king, as the emperor of the France. He was an excellent general and he conquered and dominated all the neighboring countries except Britain and Russia. So he also conquered over the various countries, various neighboring countries of the France, but not the Britain and Russia with the help of his army. He was remembered for his restoration of order to France after a fierce and disorderly 10 years of French Revolution. So there was no order in the French Revolution for 10 periods after the execution of the king and the queen, after the end of the monarchy, until the Napoleonic Code. There was a complete disorder of laws, of rules and regulations in France. There was complete instability in political as well as in economical, in law and order in the country. So he finally succeeded in bringing the order, the law and order in the country back. He finally succeeded in bringing the order back in the reign of economic, society, law and religion. So in every aspect of the society, he bring back that order. Now what is the Napoleonic Code that he had introduced? So he introduced several effective administrative changes like the Civil Code of 1804 introduced by Napoleon, known as the Napoleonic Code. Okay, so a code was made, administrative changes were made, a kind of civil code was made by Napoleon. So what were the main features of this code? The privileges enjoyed by the noblemen and the clergy on the basis of birth were completely abolished. Okay, now these nobility and the clergy class will not enjoy the privileges that they used to enjoy, that they were free from every kind of taxes to pay, they were having a lot of enjoyment. That was completely abolished on the basis of the birth. Equality before law and the right to property was secured. Now people can have their own property, own private property, and equality, the feeling of equality. Okay, equality was served by Napoleonic Code. The feudal system was completely abolished and the peasants were freed from serfdom and the payment of dues to the manor owner. Okay, so they were free from all kinds of taxes and duties that were imposed on them by the upper two states of the classes. The businessmen and small producers of goods felt that uniform laws, standardized weights and a common national currencies could facilitate free trade across Europe. Now because there was a proper system of weights and measures, there were uniform laws. So this whole peasants class, including the businessmen and small producers, they felt that this could facilitate the free trades in Europe. Then guild restrictions were removed and transport and communication systems were improved. So many more developments took place, many more transportation systems started by the Napoleonic Code, and guild restrictions, the restrictions that were of no use and that were hampering the development of the country, were completely removed. So these were certain things that were introduced by Napoleon. Though he just gone against the basic ideology of the French Revolution, that he again started the monarchy, he himself became the emperor of the France, but that monarchy was made on the constitutional basis. A constitutional monarchy was started. Now the king also have to follow the rules and regulations that are given in the constitution. Though he still was the king, but acting as the member of the whole constitutional bench, you can call it as constitutional bench, he was the member of such bench and he himself has to follow. Now he is not considered as the son of the king, son of the god, but he is the people among the members of the society, among the members of that third estate. He was the representative of the people. People have made him the emperor there because they wanted a ruler over them. So Napoleon had become the ruler of France after the French Revolution and ruled for a long period of time. So this is all about the French Revolution. Also, our National Day of France is celebrated every year on 14th of July because that was the day when the revolution actually started, when the angry mob attacked on the prison of Bastille, and that day is selected to be celebrated as the National Day of France, that is 14th July. So for now, this is it in this lecture. Thank you so much for your patience listening. Take care and bye-bye.